guys, so before I start this video, some of you guys may already know all this information, so you might just want to click out of it halfway through because you've already heard this before. But before I get started, I just wanted to let you guys know that I am going to be doing another Q&A here soon. So I want you guys to go ahead and comment your questions down below. Otherwise, you can DM them to me on Snapchat or Instagram or YouTube Messenger, whichever is easiest for you guys. I've been getting a lot of questions lately, so I just want to go ahead and get a Q&A out there, as somewhere in this time leading up to IVF, I will film a Q&A for you guys. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this video. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about our entire fertility story, or actually infertility story. I get a lot of questions and DMs about this because I've never actually done a video. So to save a lot of you new subscribers from having to go back and watch several videos to get bits and pieces of our journey, I thought I would just include it in my preparing for IVF journey. So if you're interested in this video, then just keep watching. So I guess I will start with when my husband and I got married. This is kind of weird because the timeline's not gonna add up. So I have to tell you guys a little secret that literally no one knows, not even my mother. And as soon as she sees this, she's gonna kill me. My husband and I actually got married a lot sooner than people actually think we did. We had our actual wedding on my parents' wedding anniversary, and we actually got legally married before that. So that's why I have to tell you guys, because the timeline's not gonna add up when I tell you. So yeah, sorry mom. So we actually started trying to get pregnant before we were legally married. So I'm gonna refer to our marriage wedding things as married in our actual wedding. So we were married long before we were actually had a wedding. So we actually started trying before that, which I know everyone morally is different. Actually, I don't normally agree with that. I'm not really sure what happened then, but anyway, I can't really change it. We started trying, and for some reason, I just felt like it was gonna take a long time. So I'm not 100% sure why I thought that, but I ended up being right, obviously, because our current journey is over 2 years now. So we started trying before we even had our actual marriage. And by the time we got married, it hadn't happened yet. So we just kept trying, and then when it came time our wedding rolled around, by that point we'd been trying for right at a year. So I knew by then something was not right, just because most healthy couples can conceive within a year's time frame. So I actually, back then, I will tell you guys that I wasn't having regular cycles. I'm not really sure what changed that. I'm gonna assume that my daughter, when I had her, changed that. I would only have them like every other month or something, just very long, like 50 to 75 day cycles. And I wasn't tracking ovulation or anything like that. We were just kind of trying every other day. So before we actually had our wedding in July of 2013, I called and made an appointment with my OB doctor, because by that point it had been a year, and after we got our wedding and our honeymoon, I kind of wanted to go in and see what was going on. So I scheduled that appointment with my OB just for a yearly physical, and then I also told them that I wanted to discuss getting pregnant. So I actually had to reschedule that appointment 3 different times. The first time because our honeymoon, we took a longer one than we actually thought we were going to take, and then I had a job interview the next time, and then I ended up taking that job. And so my third appointment that I actually had scheduled, I ended up going to, and I'll never forget it because it was the first day of my new position in the medical clinic that I was working with. So needless to say, I went to that appointment, and most of you guys probably already know what happened at that appointment because I did talk about this, but at that appointment I learned that I was in fact pregnant. So I had no idea that I was pregnant because my cycles were so long, and then I attributed not having a cycle to being stressed out for the wedding. And I actually took a pregnancy test before we left for our honeymoon, and it was negative. So I must have been pregnant or gotten pregnant right before that, and it just was too early to tell. So yeah, that was a huge surprise. I was like just completely shocked. I started crying because I was happy. And then I'm like, holy crap. So let's fast forward after that. Obviously, that must have been, now thinking back, it must have been like some kind of a miracle because of the problems that we're having now. So we quit doing any of the, we didn't make any more appointments, obviously, because I was already pregnant. So fast forward, my husband, after my daughter was born, left for a deployment for a year. And when he got back after that deployment, she was about 14 months old. And he was home for about 5 months before we decided that we wanted to try again for a second baby. And I was just hoping to be pregnant by the time that she turned 2. Yeah, she's about to be 4 now. So that obviously didn't work out. So we tried for about a year. Yeah, right at a year. We started trying in December of 2015, and then December of 2016, I called and made an appointment with my OB and midwives here in Iowa. We actually lived in Alabama back then, if you guys were wondering. I'm sure that most of you already know that. So January of 2017 is kind of when we started doing kind of interventions of medication. I went to OB, and they said that because at this point I had been having regular cycles. They were only like 2 days long because I had cycles about every 30 to 31 days, and they say the average is 28 days. She said that everything was fine with me, but I kind of advocated and said, you know, I want to look into that to make sure nothing is wrong with me. And then she said that my husband needed to get a sperm analysis, which he was convinced it wasn't him. And I honestly didn't think it was him either, which shows how naive we both were, because obviously it is him. But I was just curious about myself as well, because I know it could have came from both ends. So before doing any testing, we kind of just did a few rounds of Clomid. And then after that didn't work, we went ahead and scheduled an HSG, which showed that both of my tubes were clear, so I was very thankful for that. And then I actually asked for an ultrasound to make sure I didn't have like all these cysts or anything, and that ultrasound was completely clear. So everything with me was checking out. The only thing that wasn't checking out, and you guys know it's kind of, I still wonder about this too, the OB clinic would call me after I got my day 21 progesterone drawn after Clomid. And there were some months they were saying I was ovulating, and there were some months they were saying that my progesterone was low, like a 4, 5, 6 range. And there was one month it was 0, so I didn't ovulate, which is so confusing because my periods came on time. So the one month that I didn't ovulate was the one month we tried Femera. So every other time with Clomid, I was ovulating, except for a few times they were saying, well, you're ovulating, but we want to see it over a 15, and it's really like a 4 or 5. And that means that you're ovulating, but it's just not a good ovulation, or whatever that means. Everything that I've read about that is just so contraindicating. I don't know what any of it really means. So after 6 months at my OB's clinic, we made an appointment for June 2017 for my fertility specialist, and we met them, and my fertility specialist went through all my records, and he said, you're ovulating. So them telling you that you're not, progesterone, I guess, goes like a roller coaster up and down throughout the day, so it depends on when you're drawing the progesterone, what the level is going to be. I'm like, okay, yeah, I have no idea. So it's kind of confusing when they were telling me I wasn't and he was saying I was. I'm not sure. So I did tell him that I was having a little bit of pain and kind of discomfort during intercourse at times, depending on what position we were laying in. And he immediately said, we need to do a laparoscopy to make sure you don't have endometriosis. My mom had it really bad, and yeah, I mean, she had a hysterectomy, I think, when she was 25. So yeah, that was kind of frightening, because when I went there to see them, I think I was already 25. So I was kind of that, I was at that age where it was just like, holy crap, is this gonna be my problem? So we went ahead and scheduled the laparoscopy, and the same day my husband had to do a sperm analysis, which he was just not for that. It was just a very awkward situation, because you go into this little tiny room, there's this sketchy futon against the wall with this white sheet draped over it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no, I really wanted to see the room to see like what it was like. They have like a thing of magazines behind the door. Like, it's just so sketchy in there, but you have to do what you have to do in order to achieve the greatest gift that you can possibly get. So we got his results back, and then I also had the laparoscopy. It wasn't, I think, but a week later I ended up having that, and I woke up from surgery, and my doctor said that everything was completely clear. I even had photos, and I'm like, looks good to me. I didn't really know what I was looking at, but to me it looked like it was normal. But my husband's results, however, were not normal. They were actually bad. My husband's first initial sperm analysis, and I'm not 100% sure of the numbers. I kind of remember them, but I do have a video on my trying to conceive list that shows my husband's actual test results. I know that sperm count was 10 million, and the motility was like 2%, and the motility was like 40%. So really the sperm count, everything really was off. Nothing was normal or within normal range at all. So I'm like, okay, so I guess it's your fault. It's not mine. The doctor's like, yep, it's definitely not you, it's him. Now, they said that we would need to start IUIs, and then he honestly thought that IUIs would be what got me pregnant. Even though the chance of IUI, the percentage of your chance to get pregnant is so minor. We're talking between 10 and 20%, which is pretty much what your chance is every single month that you try naturally, except for ours. Ours was like a 2% chance. It's just, it won't happen for us naturally, most likely. I mean, obviously it can because it happened with my daughter Aniston, but that's amazing. I'm just shocked that she's even here right now, knowing what I know now. Thank you.
Look, you know
My daughter just brought me a nice little friend for the video. So they actually had my husband redo his sperm analysis. I guess you have to do 2 in case 1 is contaminated or something. So his second one showed that, and in between these 2, they told him to take some vitamins. So he started taking some vitamins for about 3 weeks, and so the sperm analyses were 3 weeks apart. His second one showed just a tiny bit of improvement. I think there was 14 million, and the other numbers were also off, so still not even close to being the average. So he's like, definitely IUI is the way to go. So he wanted to just do Clomid, 100 milligrams of Clomid with the IUIs. And we did an IUI for 1 month or 2 months. Took time off to go on vacation. And then when we came back, we did another IUI. But we had a lot of problems with our fertility clinic because they've lost a sperm sample on us. That happened our very first IUI. And I was just like completely shocked. I have a video on that too, and you can tell how shocked I was. The second time we did one, they were calling us with different numbers that weren't even my husband's numbers at all. It was just a hot mess. So when we did our last IUI, I knew something wasn't right because I just kept getting these ovulation tests that were positive but not blazing positive, and normally I would get them getting darker and then it would become blazing positive. So I was like, something's not right. We went ahead and went in for our first IUI of that cycle, and I'm like, okay, I mean, I'm not having the pain, but the test looks positive to me. And they're like, oh, I'm sure it's so fine. You're good. As long as you have the twinges, you're fine. We did the IUI that day. And then of course, 3 days later, my tests were still like positive, but not blazing positive. And I was having what I thought was ovulation pain. At least that's what it felt like every single month. And we went back and they tried to argue and not let me do a second one, but we went back, and then when we were in the office, we asked for an ultrasound, but they refused to do one, saying that if I'm having the pain, then I must be ovulating. So we paid for 2 IUIs that cycle, which obviously ended up being a complete waste of money. Needless to say, those 3 failed, and we decided to go towards injectable IUIs. We wanted to try 3 rounds of that, and we did. Or we were going to, and we went in for our very first cycle, paid for the medication, and when we got into the ultrasound room for our baseline ultrasound, I have 1 cyst that was the grapefruit size, bigger than my ovary, and then I had 2 more on the other side that were like plum size, so they were like this big. And I was just shocked, upset, cried, was kind of mad because if they'd done an ultrasound the previous month, then they would have seen them probably then. Clomid obviously caused me to have these cysts, and who knows how long, because my clinic is not one that normally monitors you on just regular Clomid IUIs. So that cycle was canceled, and if you guys don't know this, my husband is deploying next year, and so our timeline that we thought we had is now completely scratched, and we are kind of rushed and feeling this pressure to get pregnant, which I'm sure a lot of you are like, oh, next year, that's plenty of time. But it's not really plenty of time when you aren't getting pregnant, and you have to be pregnant once you get pregnant for 9 months, then deliver and have your husband have time with the baby. So really, it's not that much time when you think about it that way. Yeah, so that ultimately led us to make a decision if we wanted to chance an injectable IUI, which is not any higher of a percent than a regular IUI. I want to say it's only like 5% better of a chance, which is insane to me. So that led us to IVF, and we just think, and we do still think, and are currently going through the process because we know this is what's best for our family. And if my husband hadn't gotten deployment orders, we still probably would have tried 2 to 3 injectable IUIs depending on how the first one went. But it's just not meant to be, I guess. So we are moving forward for IVF, and it's gonna be very taxing. Obviously, I don't think anyone's ever said that IVF has been easy, because it's not. My sister did IVF and she told me that it was not easy at all, which obviously it's not easy. I've watched a ton of YouTubers who have done it and are currently going through it. And I'm like, holy crap, how am I going to deal with that? But we're just gonna have to get through it and band together as a married couple and work together to achieve this goal that we want. Some of you have asked, and yes, we want 2 more children. If I could make a perfect world, I would say, can I just have twins with IVF? But obviously you can't really decide what happens once they implant those embryos. So, yeah. So that is all for this video, you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope that this clears up our journey. For those of you who are new and didn't know, this is kind of our journey thus far. We are now on our 24th month of trying, so I think IVF actually transferring will happen somewhere in the 26th month of trying, which is crazy. So hopefully all goes well. But if you want to follow our IVF journey, just hit the subscribe button, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.